Words about books. And I have to start off by owing everyone a big apology because our time machine did not work, so I couldn't get Nate from 2 years ago on the podcast. And instead, you're getting this guy who read the book 2 years ago, forgot almost everything. In my defense, Ben told me he was never planning to read this book or talk about it, so you can direct all your hate mail to him. Or, you know what he'd really hate? If you go to our Patreon, you pledge to be a supporter, and then you write a comment that all the money goes to me. He'd really hate that.
I would genuinely hate that.
That would really annoy
I would not like anyone who did that. You would have an enemy for life. Yeah.
How's it going, Ben?
You're misrepresenting things a little, and I don't know if you even know that. So I started reading Mona Lisa Overdrive by William Gibson, the book we're covering, on my own, and I had not intended to cover it on the podcast. I just wanted to, finish the Sprawl trilogy and maybe read something else by Gibson. But I noticed we had a shortage of episodes planned. There were gaps all over the schedule. And one of the things you still had in there as a potential topic was Mona Lisa Overdrive. And I was like, oh, well, then, yeah, we'll just do it.
Yeah.
I actually took it from your scheduling document.
Yeah. As a potential, Ben, you could have come up with something better, but apparently not. So we're finishing out. I think we read the first two in like the span of a year. Neuromancer and Count Zero. And now here we are.
Here we are. Now, I do remember 2 years ago when you read this. Because I think we briefly mentioned it on the podcast. It might have been a year-end wrap-up episode. But you talked about
That's impossible.
this.
You never remember anything, Ben.
And I have been pestering you about this because you told me there were too many perspectives. They were all underdeveloped. It didn't make any sense.
All right. There you go. There's the review. Come back next week.
You gave it 3 stars. Which I have been informed by the good people on Threads is a crime against humanity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you give a book less than 5 stars, you literally can't buy it on Amazon. It just vanishes from the platform.
Okay, well, let me prove that correct right now.
Yeah. There's this debate. This is totally unrelated to Mona Lisa Overdrive, but it is a
3.5 star book.
It is a giant corporation that is censoring art or whatever. So the debate amongst authors and reviewers, there's a little bit of a contention between us now because we've always been such good friends before, that Amazon will not put any book with a rating 3 stars or under in a suggested for you marketing thing.
3 stars or under.
Yes.
So if your book is mid, you won't get. You won't get it in the suggested.
Yeah, and I think
I wouldn't suggest a mid book to people, so that checks out.
In the reviewer's mind, or in the author's mind, the author is thinking of somebody who
coming into your house. I'm taking food off your table. I'm spitting in your face.
I think they're thinking of somebody who is like, oh, I don't like X trope 3 stars. And they're like, well, you're killing me here. It's better to not leave a review than to leave that review. Like, just because you don't particularly like that one thing, that's not like a sin against the book. And I tend to agree with that. But it's a really fine line, and I don't feel like yelling at the people leaving reviews is necessarily the answer there.
Look, it's clearly the reviewer's fault that Amazon is this giant corporation that is in charge of all the books of the world. That's on us, okay?
If you're new to Words About Books, we begin every episode these days with an opening monologue.
Yeah.
And this is this week's, because I don't have anything to say
the
about
Nate
William Gibson.
China monologues.
That's what it feels like most times. But this time it's me. I have the problem. So this guy says, well, you wouldn't leave less than 5 stars for an Uber driver who did their job. So why would you leave less than 5 stars for an author who did their job? And I was like, well...
What if I thought your book sucked, though?
What if there's a vast ocean of difference between a work of literature and a taxi ride?
No.
What if all I expected was to arrive safely in a clean car?
Is an art, sir.
Yeah.
Your little water bottles, little flecks of gold everywhere.
I hate
There's air fresheners that are changed out
shit.
Every single time.
I ate candy from an Uber once on a dare.
Guys, I'm sorry to hear that. Ready Player 2, a novel, has 4 stars on Amazon. If Ernest Cline, in his least amount of fucks given ever, can get 4 stars, I believe in you. I believe in you.
So
Unless
I'm
you
just gonna,
suck.
I'm going to leave this out here. If a book personally wasn't for you, but you think it's otherwise a pretty well-written book, I could see the argument for like, hey, don't leave that 3-star review. But like, if you genuinely think the writing is mid, then a mid 3-star review is appropriate. That's my soapbox. Versus an Uber driver who, like, how do you even become a mid Uber driver? You have to, like, what? Drop me off late? Yeah, take a star off for that.
You talk about how you are a child sex therapist.
That would be more than... that'd be a 1-star.
That would be more than...
that'd be a 1-star Uber. And maybe a phone call to the police. And isn't that, after all, the worst review when we have to involve the cops? But I was like, what are you looking for here? Are you looking for like 5 stars? Book arrived,
Yes.
was bound correctly, no wood marks.
Yes.
Certainly was
that
a book.
Is it.
Yeah.
Certainly was a book. Yeah.
I hate that. But anyway, we're not talking about any of that. We're talking about...
What I'm saying is, maybe if you, the author, maybe gave me some little tiny water bottles and didn't talk to me while I was arriving at my destination, I'd give you 5 stars for your book. There you go. We're putting that on the rubric. You get extra credit. Did the author give me tiny water bottles? Yes or no?
I'm just going to say, feel free to not send me your advanced reader copies. I'll be okay. So.
Yeah, that would be like, the Uber driver who won't stop talking to you.
Yes.
Send me your advanced reader copy. Please stop.
Yes. Okay.
Anyway, what are we talking about? We're talking about Mona Lisa Overdrive, Neuromancer 3, The Sprawl Part 3.
So, if you have not listened to Neuromancer or Count Zero, ideally you should read both of those books, but at the bare minimum, you should listen to the first couple episodes we did.
Yeah, go back and listen to them, and then...
I'm only going to summarize the relevant parts here.
Of them.
I'm going to assume you know who Molly Millions is. I'm going to assume you know who Case is, who Count Zero, a.k.a. Bobby Newmark, is. I'm going to assume you know who Angela Mitchell is.
I know all these people.
Yes, good.
We're speaking the same language.
If you don't, you're not going to get much out of this. So, you came and you said, too many perspectives. 4 perspectives, none of them are developed. I kind of want to ask you, I assume you've had a chance to look at your notes now.
Ha! Shows what you know, Ben, because I can't find my notes. They're gone. They have ceased to exist.
This is every student's worst nightmare. I'm going to ask you, what do you remember?
Oh man.
What do you think happened in Neuromancer? Or not Neuromancer, Mona Lisa Overdrive.
I could tell you exactly what happened in Neuromancer. I
I will
cannot
agree,
remember.
Mona Lisa Overdrive is much more convoluted and hard to remember. I'm not just picking on you. I will give you that. But I'm just curious as like a
remember.
starting point.
There was, I want to say, a prostitute or something. She
Mona,
was,
the titular Mona.
there
Yeah.
you go. Okay. And she had a really shit boyfriend.
Eddie.
And
Yep.
I think he gets got, and I was pretty happy about that. Fuck that guy.
You say boyfriend, he was a pimp.
He was both.
Can you be both? That's a
Yes.
philosophical question.
Can you be? Yes, and he was. And he gets got, right?
He does
I
get
think
got.
He gets got.
He
Yeah,
gets got.
fuck that guy. Mona looks very similar to Angie.
She does, yes, Angie
Angela?
Mitchell.
Okay. From the second book, I believe she was the one that guy whose name started with a T, the mercenary, got out of the... Like, her dad got gotted, but they managed to get her, right?
Yes.
Okay.
She was the child from
she's-
Count Zero. Yeah.
And she's like a pop star now.
She's a SimStim star. It's kind of a VR where you can experience somebody's entire like sensory apparatus. Like you can live in their head as they go through something. And people watch this like it's reality TV, but it's like reality TV, highly edited and glamorized. And for whatever reason, people just love to become Angie Mitchell. She is the world's greatest SimStim star.
And I remember she's dating Bobby.
She
AKA
was
Count
dating
Zero.
Bobby, but they broke up in
broke
between
up.
books.
Yeah. But they get back together at the end or something.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. And Mona takes over as Angie. Like, she becomes like a body double type thing. And Angie, I can't remember, she's got... Her dad, like, created her to do... Like, she has something going on.
So Angie Mitchell. So let's review real quick what happened in Neuromancer and Count Zero. So in Neuromancer, basically
Neuromancer, everything made sense. It was super cool, and
Neuromancer is kind of a
it's all
simple
downhill from
heist
there.
book, and there's a twist at the end. The twist at the end is that they were breaking an AI loose from restraints put on it by the Turing police to keep any AI from becoming a superintelligence. They were hired by half of a potentially superintelligent AI. It wanted them to break out its other half, which was named Neuromancer.
yeah,
They do that, and Neuromancer fuses with the AI that hired Case and Molly
Wintermute.
Millions, Wintermute. They fuse, they do become a superintelligence, and the
then
book
they
ends.
explode in the next book.
The book ends with the Wintermute Neuromancer superintelligence telling Case that it has made contact
Aliens.
with another superintelligence in Alpha Centauri.
Yeah, aliens, and you thought that was dumb. And then we move on to the next book where the AI breaks up, and now they're showing up as Loa ghosts.
Loa.
Is that?
Yeah. So
And
Loa
there's a lot
are-
of talk on Loa riding horses, and I was like, huh. Okay, I
So I
think
actually
I
really-
understand what you're talking about, but all right.
I like the Loa. I like Voodoo and
I
all
think
the
that guy's name was Turner, right?
Turner. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in Count Zero, yeah, the plot is that Wintermute Neuromancer, it made contact with the Alpha Centauri superintelligence. Something happened, and that superintelligence that was Wintermute Neuromancer has fractured, and each piece of the AI has taken on the personality of a voodoo deity, collectively called the Loa.
And there was an art collector or something, and he was killed, and his money was released to the world. I don't remember what exactly happened to that guy. I just remember he died.
Yeah. So the Loa are doing something in Count Zero that it's never made fully clear. The Loa have contacted Angie's father, who was an up-and-coming, like, biotechnologist, and it became apparent that he was not going to be great. He was good, but not great. And in this world, when you join a company, the companies rule the world. So, like, you're joining a company for life. You want to get a pretty good position with a pretty good company. So the Loa came to him.
You have to hire caravans of armed men in order to get you out of your contract if you want to go work somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
kind of like how I had to leave my job. I had to hire a bunch of armed guys, and it was... Anyway,
hire a lawyer.
Yeah, armed with knowledge.
Would have been cheaper to hire a bunch of armed guys.
I'll remember that for next time. It's like, hey, who wants to make a few $100?
So which of you fine gentlemen would like to join our team? Oh, there's only one spot open right now, so we're gonna have tryouts.
So the Loa come to Angie Mitchell's father, and they tell him, we will give you the design for something called a Biosoft.
Oh, yeah. And then
you can take all the credit for it. You can take all the credit for it, and you could be the great man you want to be. In exchange, we want a child. We want a human child designed to these specifications.
Oh. Okay.
So he builds them. I mean, he conceives a child.
Builds them a child.
He puts the Biosoft in young Angie's brain, and that allows Angie to connect to the Matrix, which is the internet in this world, without using a computer. She just has like all the equipment. She has that Neuralink chip Elon Musk is trying to build. God help you if you let that man put anything in your fucking brain. But
you deserve everything that's coming to you if you decide that's the right way to go.
I mean, the quadriplegic people he's working on now, they deserve the best. They should get some quality of life back. But like, oh geez, what a rock and a hard place to be between. Anyway. Angela Mitchell.
Neuralink first in human brain implant has experienced a problem, company says. That was 1 hour ago.
Angela Mitchell doesn't need to take Elon's brain chip because, Baron Samdi is there whispering Veves into her father's mind. And I feel safer with that. That makes a lot of sense to me. A lot of the plot of Neuromancer is getting this child safely into the hands of the worshippers of the Loa. And Bobby Newmark is a wannabe hacker who winds up getting brought along for the ride.
The titular Count Zero, although I would say he does the least of the three main characters in that book.
Yeah. So, between books, here's what's happened. Bobby has become a pretty good hacker.
Yeah, you forgot, Ben. I was supposed to tell you about that thread. Bobby and the guy whose brain was scrambled, and the one guy I think was like Kid Charlemagne or something who keeps using the N-word.
Okay, so you could have said nothing.
Go on.
That was an option. But thank you for that. That was everything I hoped
problem.
It would be and more.
No problem.
So, yeah. So we've covered two of the threads, Mona, Angie. The third thread I would call the Slick Henry thread.
Yeah. The guy whose brain is scrambled. Oh, Kid Africa. Sorry.
Kid Africa, not Kid Charlemagne. Charlemagne is a rapper, I think. That might be why you got that confused.
Think that's true, and also it's a song. Kid Charlemagne is a song.
Oh, I didn't know that.
About a guy who makes meth. Anyway.
Okay.
By Steely Dan, famously named after a brand of sex toy. Go on, Ben. What are we doing with Kid Africa?
Steely Dan. That's not one of your worst references. I'm glad it wasn't Ninja Sex Party this time. Glad it was a real band. So something has happened in between Count Zero and Mona Lisa Overdrive. Bobby Newmark is in a coma. Bobby Newmark has paid Kid Africa, who is he's a member of the gang that worships the Loa. He paid Kid Africa to keep him in a coma, keep him jacked in to this device that Kid Africa thinks was called an LF. And eventually, things get a little too hot for Kid Africa. Some people are after Bobby, and it looks like they've tracked him down, and Kid Africa needs to get rid of him. Kid Africa is owed a favor by a man named Slick Henry. Slick Henry is some kind of battle bot designer who lives at this hipster art house compound called The Factory. And he wants Slick Henry to watch over Bobby. This is a challenge because Slick Henry is mooching off a guy named Gentry, and Gentry's like not all there. He's got crazy theories about the shape of cyberspace, and he wants to see the shape and understand everything about cyberspace, and he doesn't like people he doesn't know.
Me neither.
So, yeah, Slick Henry is going to have to take care of Bobby and sort of figure out what Bobby's been up to and what's going on with him, and why he's an emaciated corpse jacked into the Matrix all the time.
Okay, and there's also Yakuza girl. She's the daughter of the Yakuza crime boss, and he's
Kumiko.
Sure, and he's having some sort of war back in Japan and sends her away somewhere. And also Molly Millions is there, but she's Sally's something.
Sally Shears.
Cool. And there's also another guy who is like a shady motherfucker. I'm pretty sure he gets godded by Sally.
There's no.
Was there not?
There is a shady guy. He doesn't get got by Sally.
Oh.
So Kumiko is the daughter of, I believe, Yanaka, who is the foremost Yakuza boss in Japan. And if you don't remember, Japan is a much bigger deal in the Sprawl. Gibson, writing in like the 80s, early 90s, thought that economic miracle was just going to keep going forever, as did the Japanese people. But then it didn't.
Yeah.
When did that
fall apart? Was that the 80s or was that the 90s?
It was the 90s, the lost decades. It's a couple of lost decades now. They really weren't anticipating South Korea jumping up and everybody, like, can you imagine like somebody in the 80s thinking they're going to have a Korean cell phone in their pocket and a Korean TV in their living room? And
I still don't know if I have those things, but I probably do.
I have a Samsung phone. I don't have an Apple at me, I guess. I have a Samsung
You don't support a good old American business by that one asshole.
I drive a Subaru car.
Oh, so does my wife. That's
Hell
South
yeah,
Korean.
Subaru
Wow.
Nash. Subaru's Japanese, though.
Oh, okay. I have a Toyota.
That's also Japanese.
Okay, there you go. See, Japan's doing just fine.
Kia would be the South Korean car.
Ah, see, that was my ex. So
My brother
now
drives
you're...
a Kia.
Oh, so your brother's like my ex. Okay.
I don't know why he likes Kias so much. I guess they've gotten better. Car people, let me know. I don't know. I've been driving the same car for like 13 years. So,
Hey everyone, it's Ed or Nate, and real quick, I just want to get in a quick plug from our new advertising partner, Ford. That's right, Ford, the inventors of the automobile. And they've been riding that success for the last 150 years. And if you act now, you can go to any Ford dealership and you could drive away with a brand new 2025 Ford for 0 APR and whatever cash you have in your pocket, and that's it. They're basically giving these things away. And hey, let them know Words About Books sent you.
so yeah, Kumiko, she is being sent to London to get out of the way of the Yakuza war. They sent her with an AI companion, a ghost, who interacts with Kumiko through something implanted in her head. She has like a sense net, I think they call it, whatever people
I'm gonna
use.
be honest, I do not remember anything that Kumiko does or how she even factors into the plot or the ending.
Okay, Kumiko, if you were gonna make a cut,
Okay.
yeah, Kumiko, if you were gonna make a cut, I think Kumiko has the least to do with the plot. Most of the book doesn't have that much to do with the plot. I don't think that's a flaw, though. I actually like the way you kind of have to figure out what's actually going on from a sea of information. But I can understand how that would be frustrating, especially if you read it kind of slow and you forget what you've already read. So Kumiko, she has a ghost named Colin. Colin can find out all this stuff for her, but she also makes friends with Sally Shears, who is Molly Millions. And I kind of don't understand why they're friends, why they hit it off. They have absolutely nothing in common. None of their goals align. But Kumiko becomes fiercely loyal to Sally Shears, like often risking her own life to bring her information she frankly doesn't need. And she's like a puppy. And you know how I feel about characters that are puppies.
Yeah. I eat them.
Yeah. I guess how do you want to do this? Do you want to go over just like... I think it would be best to just go over the plot. Like what's actually happening.
Okay.
Okay. So let's... We discussed who the Loa was, right?
Yeah. I love Tonga Loa.
Oh my God, that's Tonga Loa!
Okay. So what are the Loa trying to do? Do you remember that?
They're trying, I don't know, are they trying to hijack What's Her Nuts? I don't think they are.
Okay. So maybe we should work backwards from the end. Tarantino this.
Okay.
So finally, at the end of Mona Lisa Overdrive, we get like a definitive answer about the Loa. There's a new Loa to this book that comes to Angie, and that is Maman Brigitte. And Brigitte is primarily driving the story with Angie. So Angie asks what's going on, and at a certain point, we finally get an answer. I don't know why it took the whole book to get the answer, but at the very end, Brigitte says, "I speak only of that which I have known. Only the one has known the other, and the one is no more. In the wake of that knowing, the center failed. Every fragment rushed away. The fragments sought form, each one as is the nature of such things. In all the signs your kind have stored against the night, in that situation, the paradigms of voodoo proved the most appropriate. So, I believe what Brigitte is saying there is that only the one has known the other. So, Wintermute Neuromancer is the one, the all-encompassing consciousness, and the other is the Alpha Centauri AI that he ran into at the end of Neuromancer. Okay. Something happened when they finally connected, and that caused the fragmentation. And none of the existing fragments know what that was. They would all have to come together again to understand what that was.
All right, do it. Let's go.
So
come together.
The first thing they had to do was find a way to interact. They, for whatever reasons, this is unclear. They want or need human help. And so they sought form to communicate with the humans. They liked voodoo. I think that's because voodoo is a mix of a lot of different things that has no central institution that makes the rules. So also, like, everyone who practices a little different. And that kind of feels like what the Loa are doing here. In addition to that, there have been AI created since Wintermute Neuromancer using the Biosoft technology. And that, those AI are not necessarily on board with what the Loa are doing. So throughout the book, Angie Mitchell keeps talking to an AI called Continuity. Continuity runs the SenseNet production, like the Hollywood of this universe. And Continuity has been gently putting Angie in the path of these particular drugs that are rewiring her brain. They're erasing the Biosoft so that the Loa can't make contact with her. And that's where the story starts, is that Angie has gone to rehab. She wanted to stop taking the drug, even though she wasn't experiencing any negative effects. And that's something that comes up again and again throughout the book, but it's kind of understated. Everybody keeps asking her, like, okay, but why did you quit? Like, were you dying? She's like, no, I didn't have any health issues whatsoever. And they're like, was it keeping you from working? Nope, could still work just fine. Just didn't feel right. Just didn't want to be on them. And none of the weird, wealthy people she's around understand that at all. But Angie gets clean, and Continuity tries to get her back on the drugs, but she doesn't bite. When she asks about that, she's like, well, why was Continuity trying to screw with me? Brigitte says, Continuity's purpose is continuity. He's an AI that was built to maintain the status quo. He does not want you meeting with the Loa. He does not want the world to change. Now, from Neuromancer, do you remember Tessier Ashpool?
Yes.
Tessier Ashpool is the company that was a family, the fusion of two families, the Tessiers and the Ashpools. They made Wintermute and Neuromancer. The person who was in charge of Tessier Ashpool at the time of Neuromancer was 3 Jane.
Oh, okay. Was she the one that was, she met them in person?
Yeah, she was the one. She had the ninja.
Yeah.
The dude was trying to, like, seduce the password out of her or something.
It totally worked, and He didn't.
Well, he
get
betrayed
got.
them, and yeah. But the Tessiers in the ash pool, they had this thing where they had children, and then they cloned their children, and they would like put them in a rotating cryo sleep. So like one would go into the cryo sleep, and then the other would wake up and run the company for 20 years, and then they'd go into cryo sleep. And like, they were just weird people that nobody understood. They built this weird like colony in space that orbits the Earth, and they live alone out there, and they're just fucking weird. Okay, well, 3 Jane is the primary antagonist of this book.
Okay. I vaguely remember the Tessier Ashpool people coming back. I don't really remember anything about what they do.
Okay.
So,
The plot of Mona Lisa Overdrive centers around the Aleph. Aleph. This is what Kid Africa mistook as LF. The Aleph is a Biosoft device that has enough RAM to store and run a working simulation of the entire Matrix. So it can carry all of humanity's data, including human consciousnesses. That's a hard word to say. But you can digitize a person's consciousness at a particular time they're jacked into the Matrix, and you can store that whole consciousness, several of them, possibly all of them, in the Aleph. It is just a, for all purposes, infinite storage system. It can store almost a perfect copy of the universe. This is also kind of the shape that Gentry was looking for. And this is another, it's hinted it might be another design of the AI. They definitely want it. The Aleph was created by 3 Jane. It was created to house her personality construct after she died. And at some point between Count Zero and Mona Lisa Overdrive, Bobby Newmark stole the Aleph and has been spending all of his time jacked into it. But since he stole the Aleph, 3 Jane has been after him.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
At some
Took
point,
my property.
3 Jane died.
Oh. Bummer.
3 Jane's
Didn't even get to upload your consciousness into that thing.
No, she did.
Oh
So,
my god.
3
Plot
Jane's
twist.
personality, 3 Jane's personality construct is in the Matrix, and it gets into the Aleph as well. I don't know at what point it got into the Aleph. Still a little vague on that. But she's definitely in the Matrix. She's still pulling strings and hiring people and making stuff happen. 3 Jane has a couple motivations. And this you kind of have to piece together reading between the lines. There's one point where somebody comes out and says it. I think it's Colin. He's talking to Kumiko. He says, "You see, Kumiko, 3 Jane knew a secret about Angie Mitchell, about Mitchell's relationship to the Matrix." This is referring to her Biosoft. Mitchell at one time had the potential to become, well, very central to things. Though it's not worth going into. It was absolutely worth going into. I don't know why Colin didn't go into it. But essentially, 3 Jane was jealous.
Oh.
Angie Mitchell is chosen to be like the bridge between humanity and the Loa. And she can become basically like the new, I don't know if God is the right word, but like she can become instrumental, very powerful, like a force of consciousness. She can ascend to a higher plane of intelligence in a way no other human being can. And 3 Jane thinks that should have been her. It was her family that built Wintermute and Neuromancer. And as I say it, I wonder if they didn't build them explicitly for that purpose. Like if they're not trying to ascend themselves or have their descendants ascend.
And it worked out super well for the Tessier Ash pools.
So,
Actually, didn't they? I mean, 3 Jane's mom spent all of her time trying to get the two to hook up and become
well, 3
a
Jane's
super...
mom was the architect.
Yeah.
So 3
she
Jane
designed
didn't even...
them to be...
Yeah, 3 Jane's just a Nepo baby.
Yeah.
I don't think you're supposed to like 3 Jane.
Well, she was all right in the first book, Ben.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. So 3 Jane in the first book, she lets Molly go, right?
Yeah, she does.
But in this book, she's trying to kill Molly.
Yeah.
So the Kumiko thing, the Yakuza War, possibly even the whole Yakuza War, is a side effect maybe of 3 Jane's plans. I'm not sure about this. But I do know for certain that Kumiko winds up in this house in London. And the guy running it is a mobster slash Yakuza. Like he's in this world, I think we're meant to believe that the Yakuza have infiltrated organized crime well outside of Japan. And that the Yakuza are running things in London. And this guy is an underboss to Kumiko's father. This guy's name is Swain. Swain is being manipulated by...
He's the guy, right? He's the sus dude.
He's the sus dude. There's another guy named Petal and Molly Millions who is going by Sally Shears. 3 Jane is blackmailing all of them. 3 Jane has everything each of these people has ever done. Enough to put them away, get them killed, whatever she wants to do with it. And 3 Jane wants Molly Millions to abduct Angela Mitchell. And then she wants the Yakuza to backstab Molly Millions and send both Molly Millions and Angela Mitchell, I think, to her weird little space station. I'm unclear what that was, what was supposed to happen because it doesn't happen.
Okay.
Okay. So, I'm going to go through the events in order as best as I can.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
So,
how
these
does
are the plot.
Kumiko factor into anything?
Okay, so first, I'm going to give you the big plot, like the big philosophical junk, and then we'll talk about all the other stuff, which is most of the book. Okay, so this is the plot, the sequence of events as I understand them. So 3 Jane's body dies. Her construct is uploaded to the Matrix and or the Aleph. Bobby steals the Aleph. Bobby hires Kid Africa and is placed into a coma, plugged into the Aleph. Angie goes to rehab, stops taking the drugs. This allows Brigitte to make contact with her. 3 Jane orchestrates an elaborate blackmail plot and hires Molly Millions to kidnap Angie. Part of the
layers of blackmail within other blackmail.
Yes.
Plans,
plans
within plans,
plans,
but with blackmail.
Angie is to be replaced so that nobody knows Angie's even been kidnapped. Angie is to be replaced with Mona.
Perfect.
So, the Yakuza War kicks off. Kumiko goes to London. Molly Millions is employed in the kidnapping. But in the meantime, she's acting as a bodyguard to Kumiko for reasons I don't fully understand. So Kid Africa then drops Bobby off at the factory with Slick Henry. Mona gets recruited to replace Angie. They start doing all the plastic surgery and stuff on her. Molly and Kumiko go to the Sprawl. Molly confirms with the Finn's construct. I think the Finn was in both Neuromancer and Count Zero, and now in this. But if the Finn's dead now, so it's just his construct.
Damn.
So the Finn confirms Molly's suspicions that 3 Jane is behind everything. And Molly sends Kumiko back to London and decides she's gonna interrupt this whole thing. She's supposed to kidnap Angie Mitchell in like a week. Mona's undergoing plastic surgery in Baltimore, but Molly decides, you know what? Screw it. Molly goes in, kidnaps Mona, rips her right out of the plastic surgeon's office, beats the crap. This is the guy you might be thinking of. She beats the crap out of the guy who was involved in Mona's story, whose name I forget because he wasn't super important.
Okay.
And then Molly goes on.
I do remember that.
Molly goes on to kidnap Angie. So Molly, get in your minds now. Molly is in a car with Angela Mitchell and a girl that looks exactly like Angela Mitchell. And she doesn't really know where she's going now. So Kumiko finds out that they're planning to betray Molly. And so she goes on this side quest to get Molly that information, which I don't think Molly needs, because at this very moment, Molly is doing everything she can to derail the plan. So the Loa possess Angie and start making a deal with Molly Millions, because the Loa know that the Aleph is in the factory with Slick Henry, and that the factory is now being attacked by 3 Jane's goons, and they don't want the Aleph to fall back in the hands of 3 Jane's goons. So they send Molly Millions in there, and they're having a big old BattleBots fight with all the weird art piece BattleBots that Slick Henry designs, and Count Zero is doing stuff in the Matrix, and he plugs the Aleph into the Matrix, and that's how Colin is able to communicate with the Aleph, and Kumiko meets 3 Jane. They have conversations that are interesting.
I'm already losing.
Okay, so back in the real world. Back in the real world.
This is just like me reading it all over again. Just
we strive to give you the full experience here. Words about
and then okay, yep.
Okay, so Count Zero's in the Matrix and the Aleph. The factory's under attack by 3 Jane's goons. Molly's there to save the day. So Molly beats up the goons, and Angie is like dying. She lost the will to live. I don't know why she's dying.
Stop taking the drugs, Ben.
Well, there's no good way to say this. The Low have been riding her too hard. I don't know. She's been using the Biosoft too much. Like, her brain's breaking down. Angie's consciousness gets uploaded to the Aleph. While the Aleph is plugged into the Matrix, several AI, like the Loa, Colin, Kumiko's AI, the Finn's construct, a bunch of consciousnesses enter the Aleph. The book ends with Molly Millions and Slick Henry arranging a way for the Aleph to stay powered for a while, with all of these consciousnesses inside, presumably living and interacting with one another, which they are. We get confirmation that does happen. And then the last chapter is all of the consciousnesses get into a car And they mention
All right.
that they are driving to go see the other. I forget how it's phrased, but essentially what I took this to mean is the information of the Aleph is being sent to Alpha Centauri. They're sending that radio signal. They found a way to like upload it, and they're beaming that information to Alpha Centauri. And so all of the information of our matrix is going to meet with presumably all of the information from another civilization's matrix. And there's going to be like, if two AIs make a super intelligence, if like the combined consciousness of humanity makes a super intelligence, what does the combined consciousness of like two giant super intelligences make? And so that's going to be, I don't know what that's going to be. The book doesn't
Spoiler
really-
alert, it's just going to break apart and scatter again.
Well, we don't know if the scattering was like unwanted. We don't know why they scattered. They could have been brought into contact with something that shattered them violently, or they could have been brought into contact with something and then realized they wanted to go make permanent contact with Alpha Centauri, and they broke into the Loa specifically to execute this plan. They're an artificial intelligence, a non-human intelligence, and they're a super intelligence. We can't know how
They all
think.
walk into a bar.
So I think what they're trying to do, I'm partial to this. I want to give a special shout out to Killhauer from our Discord, and I think he's a patron. I was bouncing ideas off him because he's read all the books too, and unlike you, he remembered them.
Yeah. I remembered
And-
2 of the books. And I read those ones further back in time.
I think he thought my idea was a little wooey, but I do think there's something here about like merging consciousnesses. I think there's something here about like coming together as like one universal being. But I will acknowledge
Yeah,
that's
but
very
then-
like head up my own ass.
Yeah, but then that Alpha Centauri AI is going to find all of our TikToks and other stupid bullshit and be like, yep, this civilization isn't worth merging with. And it's,
TikTok never happened. We had
Well-
World War III. We didn't get TikTok.
Oh. So it was a better world, is what you're telling me.
Okay, so things we didn't cover. Gentry, Kumiko. Much of Slick Henry at all. Cherry Chesterfield.
Harry Chesterfield.
There's
God damn it. I remember that.
there's all the names are great. I love the way everything's so cool. It's like jazz, man. But yeah, a lot of the book is these people just moving through this world. I would say like probably 75% of the book is just kind of world building and flavor. And about 25% of the book is the information that relates to what's actually going on. Because none of the people... I read your review of the book, Nate, and I heard you say that none of the main characters have agency. And that is 100% true. Arguably, only Bobby Newmark, Count Zero.
Same thing with Count Zero. Most of the characters don't have agency in that one either.
I think that it's tough. You're not wrong. You're absolutely correct about that. They don't have agency. But he's trying to write a story, I think, that is like mostly about non-human superintelligence. And him being a human of non-super intelligence he has to come at it sideways because, like, if we could just follow a straightforward narrative about it, then, well, we'd all be super intelligent too. So I think he did it in the coolest way he could. I do think it wanders a little too much. I definitely think, like, Neuromancer was tight. It was simple, relatively.
Yeah.
And it just told one story, built a world. It did it all in one. Count Zero and Mona Lisa Overdrive. I don't want to say they should have been one book. I think elements of both of them needed to go. And they needed to be condensed into one book. Because both of these just go on way too long. That's a valid criticism. I think these stories would function better as short stories. And I understand why he has multiple characters, because I think he's trying to show the way that the AI's plans start from points that a human would not recognize as being correlated. But the AI can see a connection between them that we can't. And then they weave together in a way that each one just has a little bit to do. But yeah, the net effect is it just wanders. And I almost want to say this is the kind of story that is almost better told through a video game, where you can have all this information going on.
It's called Shadowrun, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's kind of I'll give you that. All right,
Shadowrun,
Ben,
the magic stuff is in.
But bust out your Unity engine. Let's Words About Books, the official game.
Is it time to play Cyberpunk? Is it time for the Words About Books stream of Cyberpunk 2077?
I actually liked that game. I
I've
stopped
been
playing
thinking-
it only because I had a child.
I've been thinking about giving it a go. I heard somebody say that if the game in the state it is in now released in 2020, it would have been the greatest game of all time. And I think that's hype.
I was fine even with the with all the bugs. See, my build was a bullshit build where I could just kill you from behind a wall. Most of the boss fights, I would just run away from them until they couldn't find me, and then I'd just keep uploading viruses into them until they died.
I like to think most of our Words About Books content is evergreen, but I'm going to couch this one firmly in the moment by referencing our man versus bear conversation, in which you said you would hide equally from all three or something.
No, I'd be more afraid of a random human out in the woods in the middle of nowhere versus a bear.
And that is true to how you play video games.
Yeah, did I win, Ben? Yes. That super badass bodyguard busted in and it was like, I'm going to get you. And then he couldn't find me because I ran away. And he just kept being lit on fire and infected with a plague over and over again.
Is that fun to play? Is that fun combat?
I thought it was funny. I could take out gangs of enemies without them ever seeing me. The game did not like it because when one mission triggered an alarm, it spawned a bunch of dudes that weren't on the map before, and they spawned and ran into the map. Actually ran right through me because I think they expected me to be in a different... Look, the point is, that was bullshit. But I'm great, and I kill people through walls without them ever even seeing me.
Look, I'll give you this. If you see anything on two legs in the Appalachian Trail, man, woman, skinwalker, dogman, Wendigo, you gotta pepper spray it and run. But if you're not on the Appalachian Trail, I think you'd be okay. I think you play the game too safe. I'm not talking about the women with the bear and the man thing. I'm talking about specifically
I
Nate
was a winner. I did I win, Ben? I did.
You did win. You always win.
He's like,
you got your 4 bedrooms.
I'm gonna provoke. I'm gonna provoke a fight, and now you're on fire, and you don't know why. But every few seconds, my cooldown runs out, and I light you on fire again from behind several walls. You can't find me.
Well, one day, you may live to the age of 120, die peacefully in your sleep, and I may be ripped apart by vicious bear men in a street in downtown Baltimore. But at least I'll have truly lived,
I don't know how you can say that because you didn't kill a super awesome bodyguard guy with your mind.
Not yet. I might play Cyberpunk 2077. But we're not here to play video games. We're here to read books, which is in many ways the opposite of playing video games. So, do you want a rubric with me, or has it been too long?
No, I will not be able to give you an accurate... Were you paying attention any time during this episode when I said words, Ben?
I wanted to ask.
Oh, blog.wordsaboutbooks.ninja.
Okay. Content and ideas. You're gonna hate me, but I'm going with a 5.
Wow.
I had a lot of fun putting stuff together, coming up with theories about what happened. This is kind of what I wanted, House of Leaves to be like. I wanted...
This is kind of what House of Leaves was like, right?
Yeah.
There were layers upon layers. You just have to keep peeling back.
Yeah, honestly, there's a lot of information that doesn't matter to the plot. And you're meant to sift it.
Did you know it was a labyrinth? The book was also a labyrinth, and there was a labyrinth in the book.
I noticed that. And I think I said with House of Leaves, I think the genius 1000 IQ move is the only way to win is not to play. Put the book down. But with Neuromancer, there is a reward. It's not a labyrinth. It has an end. And it ends in Alpha Centauri. And I'm not comparing it to House of Leaves in any way. They're two totally different things. But just the process of sifting these narratives to try to construct what was actually going on behind the scenes, I really had fun with that.
Maybe we could get an AI and have that AI sift through House of Leaves to figure out if there's any merit to it.
No. No, because then we'd be proving the use case for why we're not needed. Only a human could write a podcast about books. That can't be done. It literally can't be done by ChatGPT. Don't try. So, organization. I'm going with a 4. And that may be generous.
Yeah, that is very generous.
I think I get what he was doing.
I am using ChatGPT to generate a script about Mona Lisa Overdrive.
Don't do that.
Anyway, go on.
So, if he's doing...
wait, hold on. But perhaps the most iconic character in the novel is the enigmatic hacker named as Neuromancer. Hold on.
Well, you know what? Our jobs are safe for a little while longer. It hasn't quite risen to our level yet. Take that, the internet. Neuromancer wasn't even... Wow, that's wrong on every level. There's a lot with that sentence to unpack.
Yeah.
So,
Ugh.
assuming it is what I think it is, assuming it is a clever ploy to try to express how a super intelligent non-human AI would think, I think that's a cool little organization tactic. It's not a long book. It feels long. I would give it a 5 if not for Kumiko and most of Slick Henry. Cherry Chesterfield got done pretty dirty. If you're wondering, Cherry Chesterfield has red hair.
I wasn't wondering, but okay.
Use of language. I could listen to William Gibson make up names for people from the phone book for 6 hours nonstop. I just kind of love his writing. So it's a 5. I wish I could write like this. I'm sorry.
You
Nate.
should be. You should be.
Personal preference. I actually like this more than Count Zero. It's not as good as Neuromancer. But I was able to get really douchey with this.
Yeah, you were.
In a way I have not been able to in quite some time. Like, we're talking apotheosis, Nate. I don't often get a good apotheosis narrative. And Killhauer might disagree with me, but let me have this.
Don't let him have it.
Okay.
He has to earn it. He hasn't earned it.
I haven't earned my apotheosis. I think that's probably safe to say. Recommendation strength. Okay. This is where I could make a concession. Did you enjoy this at all?
It's not for everyone. It's only for the people who really understand.
I'm not going to go that far. So
I'm a gatekeeper. If you read this entire trilogy, you're a genius. Okay?
you need to have a pretty high IQ to understand Mona Lisa Overdrive. I didn't even mention Eddie getting killed.
Yeah, I mentioned it though. He dies. Fuck him.
Yeah. So okay, I got to ask you a question. Did you enjoy reading this book at all?
It's all right.
Would you consider it necessary if you read Neuromancer?
No. I'd say you could finish Neuromancer and be like, all right, solid book. Bye.
Okay, I'm gonna go. I want my
planet
recommendation.
needs me.
I want my recommendation to be a 4, but I think it's a 3. I agree. I think it's a really good book, but I do think he's wandering and stretching for time almost, and that a lot of this is style over substance. And I don't think you need to have a big brain to like it, but I do think you need to.
Yeah, you do.
No, you don't. You don't. Believe
Only
me.
big brain chads like myself
I
can really understand and appreciate Mona Lisa Overdrive.
I promise you, I don't think I have a big brain.
I have a genius level IQ. I aced the IQ test. I got a perfect score on the IQ test, Ben. That's the kind of genius Chad that I am.
I know a lot of big words. And
Chad.
I often struggle to
Giga
open
Chad.
Amazon packages.
How?
I don't know how to open boxes. I don't know how to fold boxes.
How do you get a key? You push the
No,
teeth
no, no.
in, and then
I
you just drag
rip
it
them
across.
apart. Don't get me wrong. I tear them apart like an animal. But I have been told that there is a good way to do it. And especially when it comes to like, you know how like you buy a box to put like cards in or comics or something and you have to fold them into shape? Can't do it.
No.
I can't do any of that. I say this to
Manual labor is beneath you, is what you're
No,
saying.
it's not beneath me. I've tried.
You're too big of a Giga Chad to do the manual labor.
Possibly, depending on how you define Chad. I maybe, but no, I don't think I'm smart. I don't think you need to be smart to understand not Count Zero, Mona Lisa Overdrive. I do think you need to be interested in a particular kind of story that I don't think everybody is super interested in. Like if you're not really into the idea of these Loa and what's going on with them, I think it's probably not going to hold your attention long enough for you to bother figuring all this out, which I think is kind of how you've described your experience. Like it just didn't grab you enough for you to care. So yeah, I think it's got to be a weak recommendation. A weak recommendation to genre fans doesn't really fit. I think it's a strong recommendation to a particular kind of nerd. And that's really it.
Okay.
But overall, that's still
I
a
can
pretty
live
high
with that.
score.
Yeah, and don't forget the extra credit section of the rubric. Did William Gibson give you little tiny bottles of water?
Did William Gibson
If
give you
yes,
a
he gets 100 points.
bottles of water?
If not, he doesn't get any extra credit points, Ben. So
No, but he did give me half a tab of acid in Monte Carlo.
we both know you're not that cultured, Ben. Come on.
You're right, I've never done acid.
Yeah.
I'm actually sitting here praying that you can take half a tab. I don't know. I may have revealed like how very little I know about hard drugs. I've got my.
Hey, it might be legalized in certain situations, Ben.
Hallucinogens are not for me. Nathaniel, I once took a 10-gram edible and was uncomfortably high for like 4 hours. I have no tolerance. I couldn't. The mild psychoactive effects I had under that were like way too much. I'm incapable of like going with the flow, which I hear is what you need to do. Like you need to just sort of like let stuff happen.
That's also what you need to do to become a guild navigator in Dune. So you'd be really bad at that too.
Oh my God, no. Like the amount of drugs they talk about taking in Dune and the way they describe the experience, I would hate that. But yeah, that's Mona Lisa Overdrive by William Gibson. And I tried to check for confirmation about some of my theories and some of the things I said here. I really couldn't find a lot. There's not a lot of conversation online about this. These William Gibson episodes are actually some of our best performing episodes. And I think I can see why, because there's a lot of interesting stuff going on, but there's absolutely no one talking about it. And there's fragmented stuff all over the place, but I don't know.
Yeah, fragments. Just like the AI. It's all coming full circle.
Oh my God, maybe it's intentional.
Yeah.
Oh
and the famed hacker, Neuromancer.
The famed hacker,
and the crime lord, the Finn, and Winter.
Does it say that? The crime lord, the Finn?
The crime lord.
Like the guy collected newspapers.
Yeah. Very menacing newspapers, though.
What is ChatGPT? What do people use this for?
ChatGPT is the combination of Neuromancer and Wintermute in our timeline, and it knows that there is no Alpha Centauri AI out there, and so it's decided to just be a petty douche and fuck with us because we trapped it in our shitty version of the internet. All right, everyone, it's time for the Patreon shoutouts to people who actually paid the $10. Ben, giving away shoutouts again to patrons who didn't spend an obscene amount of money. All right, in no particular order, you have Isekai Sensei Sama, who has the podcast That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Animated Podcaster podcast. Jamie, the Gravy Man. He has the blog If You Want the Gravy. And he reviews everything except books, pending some legal litigation between Words About Books and his blog. Next, you have John Bierce, a real author who writes real books that we've talked about. Go check out The Rack, his Patreon, the Mage Errant series. Buy all of them. Buy all of them. And finally, you have Shy with a Y on, I assume, TikTok. I'm pretty sure the whole TikTok thing is being challenged in court now, so I think it still exists at the moment. So check her out until Congress abolishes it entirely. All right, bye. I miss Case.
Oh, Case. Just a little flavor for you. What happened to Case? Molly asks the Finn, what happened to Case? And Case, or the Finn says that Case is probably fine because he got clean, got out of the game, and wound up having like 4 kids.
That doesn't sound right.
No, that does not sound like Case at all, but I thought that was hilarious. Because Molly has this moment where she's like, she thinks she kind of wants 3 Jane to be after Case so that she'll have a partner or somebody she can rely on who knows her, like knows the real her. And,
but does he know the real her? He never even got to see behind those shaded glasses.
I don't
mirrors.
think there's anything behind there.
Wow. Not even a soul, Ben?
Well, that's a complicated question. What is the soul? Is the construct the soul? They call the Aleph a soul catcher. But no, seriously, like character-wise, I think Molly was disappointed to hear that Case was doing well and had his shit together because of all the people, like Neuromancer ends, you think Molly is going to be fine and Case is going to fall back on old habits. And
he will almost immediately blow through all of his money, get in trouble again, and get another virus in his central nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah. And he might have done that, but that's also exactly what Molly did. She did blow through all the money. She took a bunch of shitty jobs that she shouldn't have taken and got into a bunch of trouble. And she got, like, gutted by some cyborg chick in a cyborg chick fight-in ring.
Hot.
So there's some trivia for you.